with generative AI, there are new ways for us to navigate, browse, and search code. There are also new ways to onboard faster onto legacy applications or applications that maybe not everybody understands that well still. So it's kind of like you can ask questions like, where is the code that implements the following thing? Help you find the right places in the code. Here's just one example screenshot from Cursor, one of the coding assistants out there. And for this one, I can definitely say that this is already useful today. So all of the many, many times that I've used this in different types of code bases with different types of tools, it usually points me in the right direction. It's not always exactly the right point, but it always helps me find things faster. And there are definitely a lot of cases where I feel like it helps me find things faster than a simple string search, like a Command-Shift-F or something would have taken me there. Another area where this new form of understanding code better can help us is in reverse engineering assistance. So we already heard a little bit about that today as well, but here's like an actual example of something that we did with one of our clients. And by reverse engineering in this case, I mean reverse engineering COBOL modules, right? So huge topic. There are lots of enterprises who still sit on COBOL code bases where often there's not people left anymore who can actually maintain them. And often the way like a replacement or a remediation of that system goes is that you start with reverse engineering in the sense of you need to understand what does this code even do, right? And so in this case, the goal is not to go directly from COBOL to Java with a large language model in the middle, but it's like to look at one of the steps, which is reverse engineering, and see how AI can help with that. So if you can see here, like usually at this client, how the reverse engineering worked is that there were people who would sit down and actually look at the code base, create a report, talk to a subject matter expert, do another revision of that same report, make the subject matter expert happy. And usually this effort for one COBOL module of about 10,000 lines of code would take them 6 weeks in this modernization program. And then ultimately, with this report, then a subject matter expert and a business designer would kind of work on, the forward engineering, seeing how can we actually work with this and now build like a new system that fulfills the same requirements. And so with putting an AI application in the middle of this, and I'll talk a little bit about how this actually worked in a few minutes, they could actually reduce this reverse engineering effort to about 2 weeks with a system that would actually generate a report similar to the one that was previously created by humans. And then also the plan at the time, which I think in the meantime has been implemented, was also to provide a chat interface to the business designer or the people involved in the forward engineering to continuously still try to ask questions to the code base, while they were writing these user stories. So to have a more interactive connection still to the code base. There is a talk on YouTube by 2 of my colleagues who were involved in building this system, GenAI assisted reverse engineering for legacy modernization. So I have the link here if you want to have a look at more of the details there. And finally, another example from the space of understanding code. I was just talking about this business designer also in the forward engineering being able to ask questions to the code base, right? And I think this is also a really interesting use case that unfortunately I haven't had the chance yet to really try, which is how can you also let non-technical users ask questions to the code base? For example, somebody writing a user story, your product owner or a business analyst or whatever you call the person who writes the user stories on your team, where instead of, trying to get somebody technical who can actually read the code for them to, for example, find out what are our current validation rules, they could maybe actually ask these questions themselves, right? So this takes a bit of extra work. So you cannot just do that with the coding assistant, giving them a coding assistant, asking these questions, because you need to give them more domain and functionality-driven answers. You don't want to tell them there's a function called XYZ in the following class. They're not interested in that, right? So it takes a bit more tweaking of these systems, but I think it's a really interesting use case, and hopefully I'll see somebody try it soon in Thoughtworks.